Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and this is my review of A Small Apocalypse. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, a little review for you today of A Small Apocalypse by Laura Chow Reeve. This is published by Tri-Quarterly Press, which is an imprint of Northwestern University Press, and I was provided a copy by the publisher as an advanced reader copy. And this is a debut collection of short stories by Chow Reeve. This is already out. It came out the 15th of March. So if you like what you hear today and you want to grab yourself a copy, you can do straight away. So what is this then? It is a collection of short stories, all of which speak to various different elements, thoughts, ideas, etc., experiences, with regards to queer identity, biracial identity, and the general overall theme of kind of belonging and living life in the in-between, essentially, existence in the in-between. And it's a very good collection, actually. I was really impressed with this. Chow Reeve has quite a range in her writing, I have to say. It's literary fiction, but it pulls from, or is influenced by, I think, various different genres. You've got quite a lot of uncanny stuff in there, sort of weird stuff, bits of sci-fi coming in with sort of some dystopian stuff, some kind of romance sort of stories, if you like. You've got, sort of some good character study in there. There's a great deal of humour as well. Some stories are downright funny. And so there's a real range to what Chow Reeve can do, I think, and this collection shows that beautifully. As with all short story collections, some stories stood out more than others for me. I enjoyed some more than others, but that is, as I say, that's the way with a short story collection. But there were none which I felt were poor, that were bad. I think it's more just like I go in for the weird and the uncanny a lot more than I do the more the very grounded sort of character study, relationships, romance. It's not really romance, but that's the only thing I can think of to kind of describe it. Stories about characters and character relationships. Those were less appealing to me, but by no means does that mean that they were bad. They weren't. They're just less my thing. I think my favourite stories, or the ones I thought were best, were kind of like front loaded really on the collection. I think some of the best ones were up front for me. Again, although by no means was the back half of the book poor. It wasn't at all. As I think it was just, some of my favourites happened to be up front. So yeah, I mean, all the stories are connected in a variety of different ways. They're connected, some of them, by character. There are a group of characters, a group of friends, who we get different stories about as we go through the collection, usually from the perspective of one of that group. And so we find out more about them and how they're dealing with a particular event that happened, which we're told about in the first story about them. It's connected by place. A lot of the stories have reference to or are set in Florida. And they're connected by the kind of atmosphere that comes with that as well. The kind of sort of, hot, slightly oppressive, sort of, environmental factor that is Florida, and its weather, its climate, etc. And that's really effective, actually, in terms of creating that atmosphere, this slightly claustrophobic atmosphere, I would say, with it. The writing from Chow Reeve, I think, is really good and shows like a huge amount of promise for where she goes next if she's going to do like a novel or something. She has a really grounded style at times, which is pretty much sort of realism. And then at other times she can, kind of, as I say, do the uncanny, the weird, the surreal really well. But it never feels too far into that. It's a really nice balance. And she has some really beautiful prose. There's some really beautiful descriptions, similes, things like that. And she's got some real humour as well. It's sharp. It's a real sharp and quite dry humour at times. And I really enjoyed her writing style. It was very easy to read, very easy to get into. It felt very, very human, and I connected with it quite quickly. As I say, the ideas in this, the themes that run through it was what really drew me to it, and it certainly is what kind of kept me reading. Certainly in the stories which were less my kind of cup of tea in terms of their style, if you like. And these themes of queer identity, existing in the in-between, also the cultural identity and cultural kind of conversations that Chow Reeve is having in this about Asian American identity. That was really interesting because that is something that I know nothing about. And it felt, again, very grounded. It felt like it was coming from, a place of experience. So yeah, like really enjoyed this one. I will definitely be looking out for more from Chow Reeve in the future, for sure. She's written, a lot of very diverse characters in this, and I really appreciate that. In fact, there are several characters in this who use they, them pronouns. And that's something that I always, just on a personal note, really like to see. It's an inclusive way of writing, and for me, as somebody who is trans and non-binary, that's something that it's relatable to me. And as I say, it's about visibility, and it connects me to the work on a slightly different level, and I just always really appreciate that. So then, to a rating for this one, I will pop my rating up on screen. Character, I've given an 8 to. The character work in this is very good. It's always difficult with short stories, I think, because they are so short, but they are all very much about people, about characters, and you do feel, I think, that you get to know the character in the short story, or the characters in the short story, very well in the short space of time. They feel well-rounded, they feel real, they feel 3D. Atmosphere, I've given an 8 to again. As I say, the use of Florida and its sort of climate, environment, etc., really helps with creating that sort of atmosphere connected to setting, and in terms of the general feel of the work. And even in stories where it's set in, say, an apartment or anything like that, Chow Reeve's descriptive work is really effective at placing you in that setting and creating the right sort of feel for the story. The writing, as I've said, I really enjoyed the prose in this. It's straightforward, but it still has style to it. It still has, at times, poetry to it. I really enjoyed the creative use of similes in places. I really enjoyed the imagination in the writing. Yeah, it was really good. Plot, I've given a 7 to. Again, it's short stories, so the plot is, I think, less of a focus here across all of them. They are quite strange. They are largely about character, but what plot there is well executed, well done. It doesn't ever drag. There weren't any stories that I kind of immediately thought this is too long or it's too slow or what have you. So yeah, plot is a 7. It's good. Ideas, I've given an 8 to. Yep, these were great. All of the stories connected really well through the ideas. I think each one gave Chow Reeve space to talk about a different element, a different side of this overarching theme of belonging, of identity, and yeah, some really interesting ways of expressing those ideas through the characters. And enjoyment wise, I've given it an 8. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was great. I really enjoyed reading something that was quite different from what I'd usually read, especially in terms of short stories. My knowledge of short stories is largely just horror and a bit of science fiction. So yeah, to read something that was very character driven, that was very very strange in a lot of ways, a bit more literary fiction. I really enjoyed that, and as I say, I particularly enjoyed the queer identity stuff in it, and the sort of conversations around culture from Chow Reeve. So if I add all of those scores up and divide them by 6, we get a 7.83. I will round that up to an 8, so that is an 8 out of 10 for A Small Apocalypse. That will go on Storygraph at a 4-star. So I do thoroughly recommend this if you're looking for something a bit different, something interesting, easy to read in terms of its short stories. You know, none of them are particularly long short stories, and something that shows, as I say, quite a range across those themes. Something that'll make you think, just in terms of the imagination of it and the sort of the uncanny weirdness of some of it. So yeah, highly recommend that one. So there we go, folks. That is my review of A Small Apocalypse by Laura Chow Reeve. As I say, it is out already, so if you want to grab a copy, you can. Thank you very much for watching today, folks. Do drop your thoughts in the comments below. It's always lovely to hear from you. I will be back on Sunday with my weekly vlog, so I do hope you will join me then. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.